Poisonous Hot Chocolate, a Marvel fanfiction written on AO3 by Snow's Spider Girl. The link for this fanfiction will be in the description box below, and I encourage you all to go check it out. Peter's POV. Peter was chattering non-stop, and he and Tony rode up the elevator to the Avengers living room. Tonight was the Avengers movie night, and on top of that, Wanda had assured him that the best hot chocolate recipe ever, she was making some of it tonight. Everyone seemed to be really happy about it, and they told Peter that Wanda's hot chocolate was really the best. Peter had been extremely excited the entire morning, and school had felt so long with future plans in place. Therefore, it took Peter completely by surprise when a chill ran down his spine as the elevator doors opened. Peter's mouth went dry, and he abandoned his sentence midway. Something just didn't feel right. His eyes travelled over the room, and like Peter expected, there was no danger in sight. It was more like a weird feeling, rather than a spidey sense. Tony stopped to look at him for a few seconds, probably wondering why he stopped walking. "Kid, are you okay?" Fine," Peter replied, before falling on the nearest couch. The open space was conveniently next to Natasha. He could try to avoid his dad for now. No need to make him worry, especially when there was nothing wrong. Peter received a confused look from his father. Peter always liked to snuggle up on movie nights, but he usually only snuggled with Tony. Tony walked over to the next available seat with a tiny pout on his face. Peter knew his dad loved it when he fell asleep next to him. All the Avengers got comfortable and the movie was put on. Wanda jumped up and said, "Who's ready for the best hot chocolate drink ever?" Everyone happily agreed, and Wanda began walking towards the kitchen area. Only a few minutes after she returned, levitating all the cups behind her, she floated each cup into each of their hands before happily saying, "Okay guys, tell me what you think." As Peter brought the cup closer to his face, the feeling from earlier increased tenfold, and he almost choked as the smell evaded his nose. It was similar to pure bleach. Was this some sort of prank? Looking at the others, he saw everyone else there drinking hot chocolate and seeming content. Maybe the smell was just deceiving. Then he saw Wanda give him an encouraging smile. Not to appear rude, he took the smallest sip manageable. This wasn't his best idea. One of the most important rules to follow as a superhero. Always listen to your gut feeling. Almost immediately, burning pain consumed his throat. If only one drop did this to him, what could a full cup do? Peter shifted uncomfortably and took a deep breath through his nose. The pain persisted. In the back of his mind, he could hear Wanda answering someone's question. "Yep, the lemon and the white chocolate is the best pairing." "Lemon?" Peter screeched internally and his whole body went rigid. That was why the feeling in his throat was oddly familiar. The stillness had only lasted a few seconds before he started moving unnaturally fast into an upwards position. Pushing the full cup into the nearest pair of open hands, he started walking at a fast pace to the elevator. He was going to his room before anything worse happened. Tony called after him. "Hey kid, you good? We're just starting the movie." Peter must have been muttering under his breath, but the first thing that came to his mind, in an unusual calm but high-pitched voice, he says, I just drank poison." As all the Avengers stared at him, he was pretty sure he heard Wanda grumbling under her breath. "No need to be dramatic, you could have just said you didn't like it." Peter was already in the elevator while Tony tried to stand up. Tony's POV. Tony knew it physically pained his kid to only be slightly rude, so he knew something must be wrong. If it was too much stress, over school, or an injury, Tony would get to the bottom of this. It was also most likely the reason Peter didn't want to sit down with him. After excusing himself, what Peter's manners had rubbed off a little, Tony rushed to Peter's room. After softly knocking on the door, Tony heard an almost pained voice say, "Come in." Tony opened the door, only to find Peter curled up on his bed, hands hugging his knees to his chest. He looks back at Tony. Tony's heart broke at the sight. "Oh, buddy, what's wrong?" Tony asked, moving over to sit next to the boy. Tony started running his hand down Peter's back. A slightly whiny voice returned the answer. Well, sort of. "Stupid lemons." Tony's brow wrinkled as to what was wrong with lemons. Personally, Tony thought they elevated any dish. Peter muttered out the rest of his answer. "They burn a spider from the inside out." Tony was getting worried at that. Wasn't there lemon in the hot chocolate? The boy's previous statement made even more sense now. Being part spider, the boy would have some troubles with lemon, just like the normal household species. Panicked Tony said, "Should I call Bruce?" Peter turned to him and looked. "No, Dad. This has happened previously when I used to live with May. This time I didn't drink as much. It just hurts. Tony scowled at the thought that the boy had to learn this after a few past of these happenings. What can I do, buddy? Can you stay with me? Peter asked uncertainly. Tony smiled softly before ordering Peter to move over, if staying a while would spare his back from some future pain. Lying next to the boy, with the covers pulled up and the lights almost completely dimmed, Tony started on his task. Peter felt almost relaxed, and it was only 10 minutes. Later, the boy was peacefully sleeping. Tony was nodding as well. He spent the last night with Pep on a business trip, so she wouldn't mind. Carefully, to keep his voice low, Tony asked Friday to tell the other Avengers to start the movie without them. After a quiet affirmative from the AI, Tony fell asleep next to his son.